Welcome to the topic video on JavaScript Objects. We're going to review creating and set objects and setting object properties. But we're going to get a little bit more into objects because they're one of JavaScript's most powerful features, and they've got a lot of stuff going on. However, there's a few things that can be a little tricky, such as copying objects. We're going to learn how to do that and do it right. We're going to understand the issues and the okay. We're going to learn how to add methods to objects, and we're going to learn how to create objects with constructor functions. We're going to learn about some more object properties and object member functions, general, as we go along. Two great references, take a look at these. Okay, readings, so these are the readings. We don't need all the details. Okay, so let these slides be a guide. Okay, and where the slides leave you uncertain, dig more into the readings. There are various ways of creating an object. Okay, we saw before, let my object equals empty braces is a great way to start creating an empty object. You can also say my object equals new object. It achieves the same thing, so I don't know why I'd rather write this all out unless I'm trying to impress people with my knowledge of JavaScript objects, which they probably think you're not so impressive. Okay. There's some other ways to do this via constructor functions. Object create, object assign. We'll get to those in a little bit. Okay. So, getting and setting object properties. Here in this piece of code, we start off with an object. Okay. Let's just follow along. Okay, this isn't that hard. Okay, so I opened up the console. I'm going to go var my obj equals, and it's, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, nor that. Okay, what's that? Var obj is an empty object. Okay, we can take it, and we know we learned quickly, we have a way of easily adding a property. I can just go my object, the name of the object we just defined, go dot, and some name equals my color red. Okay, now my object is no longer empty. You can see here, my object has the color red. Okay, now if we want to print things out formally. Oops. We can go console.log my obj dot, and even shows me the list of what's inside. Okay. Now, if something isn't defined, let's see what happens. Console.log my obj dot temperature. Undefined. Notice it didn't jump up and down and give me a big error there. Okay. Undefined is a legal value. An object temperature is undefined. Oh, okay. Little tricky. So we're going to see, especially when we get to React, we're going to see a lot of little problems where things come through. Such and such is undefined. Either you passed in the wrong object. That's usually a sign that you passed in the wrong object, or somehow you got confused as to what kind of object was needed to be passed in. Okay. An alternative form of setting and getting object properties is a way that we do it in Python. Okay, because our objects in JavaScript, for those who have taken Python, look a lot like Python dictionaries. So we do something more like my object color is blue. Okay. Remember, it's easy to copy this code. Then you open up your command line, you paste it in, and we see we get the same effect. Okay. We have my object. We go my obj color blue. Then we printed it out, got blue. Then we tried to print out my obj temperature, and we got undefined back. Okay. Now, what good is this? Well, let's say we want to make a lookup table. A lookup what, Professor? A lookup table. Let's make a table that's going to map words to numbers. Okay. What do you mean by that? How about a map? An object map. Okay, so let's understand this code. So I just copied the code, but let's take a look. My array has values 0, 1, 2, 3 in it. My lookup is an object. I'm going to iterate through the array. Okay. Iterate through the array. Bar equals I equals 0 to I less than the array length. I plus plus, the classical way of doing this. There's a better way to do this that we learned. Okay, but we need the variable I here. My look, so this object, then I go my array I. What's this? Oh, we go through each one of these and we set it equal to I. Let's take this code, paste it, run it. So what we get is an object that looks as follows. 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, blah. You're going, Professor, that doesn't seem quite in order. No, they're listing the object properties in alphabetical order. Okay. So if I say my look, and I say, quote, 0, oh, it maps the string that I just gave it to a number. If I say 2, it maps to the word 2 to the number 2. Oh, that's what I mean by a lookup table. Oh, very convenient for doing various types of things if we're working with a lot of things that we have to convert back and forth or translate back and forth. We may want to classify things or make a little lookup table. This is an easy way to do it. It also allows us to programmatically create the contents and an object, right? Yes. Okay. Copying and combining objects. Okay. You may or may not, in one of your programming classes, talked about reference or by value. How do you pass things into a function? Okay, do you pass things by reference or by value? Let's take a look here. So what we're going to do is we're going to assign the variable a equals 3. We're going to assign the variable b equals to the variable a. We're then going to assign the variable b equal to 17. So the question is, what's the value of a and what's the value of b? Professor, are you feeling okay? Why are you even asking us this? This seems pretty lame. Of course we know what the value of a and b is. A is going to be 3 and b is going to be 17. Why else would you think anything other than that? Oh, well, I don't know. Let's try it again then. Okay, let's take a look up close. We're going to create an object. My object equals property is my object is going to be created, and it's got the property when that I set to 22 and tied to 4.1. Okay. We're now going to set my object 2 equals to my object. Now, we're going to change my object 2. We're going to change my object 2 tied to 2.7 feet. Okay. Then we're going to print them both out. So what's going to happen here? Gee, Professor, this is fun. Let's try it. Are we all ready to see what's going to happen? Go for it. Uh-oh. What happened here? My object, obj, has the tied value of 2.7, not what it was set up here to 4.1. My object and my object 2 are the same value. Huh. So we changed the value of the tied in object 2, and it changed the value in object. Huh. What's going on here? JavaScript doesn't have an object copy function. This assignment statement does not make a copy of the object. When we say and we put this assign this variable to this object, it's holding a reference to the object, not the object himself. Okay? When we assign my object 2 to my object, it gets a reference to that object previously created. Okay? Only the primitive values get like numbers, booleans, okay, get copied over. Okay? So it's much different behavior. It doesn't copy objects automatically with assignment. It does, and it doesn't have a copy object function. It does have a much better function called object assign. However, they gave it this weird name, and they hid it in this object, capital object class. Class, yes. Okay. Whoopsies. So let's see the proper way to do this. Copying JavaScript objects. We're going to go my object, the initial value. You're going to say my object 2 is equal to object dot, notice how this is capitalized, okay, dot assign. We give it an empty object, okay, and we give it my object, okay. Let's see if this is going to work. Oh, my object has the original tied, and my object 2 has the modified tied. So this did work. Gee, Professor, that's kind of odd syntax. Exactly what is it doing? Glad you asked. Let's take a look. The object assign method has the syntax of capital object dot assign target object. Oh, so we can give it an object here, and not one, but multiple sources, all of which are objects. It's used to copy the values of all enumerable owned properties, okay, all the properties, the members of these objects, except for hidden ones, okay, from one or more source objects to a target object, then it returns the target object. Okay. So what happened here was we said we want a new object, so we gave it a target of a new empty object. What it then did is copy all the properties from my object into this new empty object and returned it. Ah, good. Nice. Can we do more with it? Yes, we can combine JavaScript Objects. Okay, so I go kiteboarding. I'm a new kiteboarder, just learning how to do this. It takes me a long time to pick up a sport. So here's my kite stuff. Kites, I got an 11 meter and a 13 meter. I got a kite board, which is a twin tip. I've got a bunch of windsurf stuff, okay? I've got sails, 7.7 meter, 6.6 meter, blah, 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 all the way down. And I got a windsurf board for this purposes. I've got others, which is a foiling board. Now, I've got to stick all this stuff in my car, okay? So what's my car gonna look like, okay? So what does it have in it? Object.assign. Here's an object, the starting target object. I created something right here by going races, blah, blah, blah. The driver is me, Dr. B. Then I'm going to put in all my kite stuff and all my windsurf stuff. Then we're going to take a look at what's inside the car. Okay. I know this is supposed to be a humorous example. This is really used and useful, and you'll see it used in code that you'll come across in doing more advanced things like React, other DOM manipulations, anything time you need to combine data sets even. Okay, so let's take a look and see how this works. Oh, the object, okay, driver. Let's take a look at what's inside. Oh, look at that. So we have all the individual fields from the two different objects, three different objects, actually, right? Because I have my kite stuff, my windsurf stuff, okay, and I've got this object here that I just created without giving it a name. Okay, so I combine three things together, get a driver, kiteboard stuff, kites, sails, windsurf board, etc. Okay, pretty nifty. You'll always use this to create, to copy objects and combine objects. Okay. I know it's hidden. But that's why I'm pulling it out and showing it to you. It's like, this is how you copy objects the easy way. There is no function for doing it other than this. Okay. And it works great. Professor, what happens if you have things of the same name and you use it? Okay, you can use it to update and override things. Let's take a look. Here's course, code, CS351, name, website development, instructor, Dr. B. Okay, so I want to combine some things. So this is the session. The session gets a special ID. We've got enrolled, 32, and auditing 1. Okay. So we're going to do object assign and combine the course information with the session information. Great. Okay, so all the course is going to have all the information. Now let's say I update because my class got really, really popular. Okay. Enrolled is going to be 300. I'm going to go do this again. Course with the update. What's going to happen? Am I going to get an error? Is this value going to be updated? What's going to happen? Let's take a look. And then we'll explain. Control Shift. Well, I won't keep saying that because it's different for Windows and Mac. Okay, so we're going to take this. Okay. Oh, let's make some room first. Okay. So we've got course, session. We're going to combine things into course, update, okay, update here. I'm going to just comment this, and just take that away, and I'll put it back, okay. So at this point, we've got this object, course, okay, so this is the course. It's got all those various features in it, including ID, enrolled is 32, and auditing 1. Okay. Now we're going to try that update code. Okay. We don't need the log session. Okay. So now we have this update where we update the enrollment because the class has gotten so popular that I have 300 people in it. Okay, and we're going to have 10 auditing. Okay, now we're going to go object assign course update. What's going to happen? Let's take a look. Oh, enrolled got updated and auditing got updated. It turns out the way, let's double check. Turns out that when I bring in more fields in this object assign, if there's any duplicates, it keeps bringing together stuff to the right. So if there's duplicates in my kite stuff and my windsurf stuff, the duplicates in my windsurf stuff will take precedence if there's any duplicate value. That will be the last value assigned. Okay? You don't want to go overboard using this tricky stuff, but it's a pretty good thing, and you'll see people are using it for this kind of updating kind of stuff. Okay, so it's an example of some somewhat useful code that can get a little subtle and tricky, and you'll see that used out there. How about removing fields? What if you want to remove a field from an object? Okay, so here's my course. Here's my session. I combine all that stuff into session. Maybe I want to remove the part about auditors. Okay, let's try it. Always try these things. I'm going to just remove that for right a sec. Okay, we see the object. It's got website dev. It's got instructors. It's got enrolled 32, all that. Got one auditing. Say we want to remove that field completely. Okay. How do we do it? Delete, not course, but delete course.auditing. Okay, we can remove it. Let's see, is it there? Let's make it clear. Course. Okay, no auditing field in it. Okay, so we can remove an element. That's very helpful, okay, in certain select situations, okay. Doesn't happen all the time. Do I remember that? Only when I've been doing a lot of JavaScript, otherwise I look it up. Okay, objects can have methods? Sure can. We have not one, not two, but 3 different ways we can implement object methods. Now let's take a look. Here I define an object, course, name, web dev, instructor Dr. B. Okay. Now, course.summary. I add a property. I add a property to this object. Okay. To the object. Okay. I do it by adding a property. Oh, but wait a second. I'm making this a function. I'm saying function. I'm not giving it any name. I don't have to. I could if I wanted to. But it's going to be put in summary. Okay. Return this name with this instructor. Let's try this out. See if it works. I hope it does. Otherwise, I shouldn't have wrote it. Okay. Let me just remove that for a sec. Okay, let's run it. So what I have is course, and let's see. What's it showing? The name, the instructor, and it shows summary, and it shows summary with parentheses to indicate summary is a function. Okay, so summary is a function. Does summary work? Wow, we can add functions to our objects after the fact. It's like, do we have to? Can't we add it all together? Yes. Okay, yes, we can add it together. At the same time we define the function. We can do it as an object property. Here, the location property. Here, the disclaimer property. Here, the wind function. Okay, the wind function. Oh, it looks just like an object property. It's defined the same way as the other object properties. You'll be going, why is it syntax highlighting this different? Ah, good question. That's probably a matter of how much this is. Oh, it's identifying these as functions. I thought it wasn't getting it right, but no, Prism knows how to correctly deal with the syntax. Cool. So let's take a look and see if this works. Copy over. Okay, so we can define the functions right here inside. What's this doing? Oh, these aren't very good wind reports. Just generating random tide and wind values. Oh. Okay, so let's try winds and tide. Wind is a function. Oh, every time I get a different value for the wind. Winds and tide. Tide is a function. Every time I run it, I get a different value. So it's not very good as far as predicting what the tides are. It's completely random. Hence, winds and tide dot disclaimer, not for navigation. Thank you, Professor. Okay. If I was defining my object all up front ahead of time, I might use this. Okay. How else might you do it? Oh, no, just like what we used to kind of do in, is this more C or Java-like syntax? Here we just say wind. We don't have to say function. We don't have to give it the member colon notation. So no colon or function needed. So this is a little bit terser, a little bit simpler. Does the exact same thing. Let's verify to prove to you that this syntax works. All you need is a modern browser. Sorry, well, Chrome or Firefox. Okay. Tide, wind. What happened to my winds and tide, wind? There we go. All right. I like this method too. They're both nice and readable. Notice there's no classes involved here. We're just defining an object. Okay. And let's double check. And we can pass that object around in variables. We put it in a variable and stuff like that. It's got member functions, but we didn't have to define any classes. So that's very, very different than the language Java, okay, where you can only create objects from classes. Okay. What other ways can we create functions? What other ways can we create objects? Via constructor functions. Let's say we need to make a bunch. Okay. So let's take a look and see how this works. We go function, board. This, key. The way that they know that this is going to be a constructor function is they see the this keyword. Remember this from C, C++? I don't know, do we use that in Java? I can't remember. Okay, so there's no other thing that just looks just like a function. I put capital board to help indicate that this is kind of a constructor function, just like we'd put, okay, classes. Can't write the method name. Okay, so in this kind of function, we have to use this syntax. Okay, because we're in a function. Okay, let's try it. Copied. Okay. We must use the new with the constructor functions. Hence the convention that constructor functions start with a capital letter. Otherwise, what would we think that we have to use new? Okay. So I define this function. Let's try it. B1, meaning board 1, equals new board. B2 equals new board. B2 dot name equals foiler. Now is B2 different? Is B, whoops. Oh, sorry, there is, I added a name. I meant to do make. B2 dot make equals Alex. Okay, so now B2 has a name, a foiler, and a make, Alex. B1, oh, we got two different objects. We created them simply with a function call with new. Good, great, wonderful. Professor, what's going on? Using the new with the function constructor creates a new object. Okay, and we'll see how this can be controlled, and sets this to that object. The rest of the statements use this to populate the object. Okay, so what was happening here? When new comes about, it creates a new object, empty object, and assigns it to this. Okay, then we go through and we populate the object. Oh, then it just returns this when it's done. Kind of a simplistic way, but remember, they had to get this language out rather quickly. The rumors are, or the story is, it was created in 2 weeks to go into the Netscape browser. So they threw in a lot of nifty features. Okay. When the constructor finishes, the object associated with this is returned. Okay. Forgot new? Let's try it. Let's check. Okay. Board. Board. The board is a function. So I'm going to say mine equals board. I left off the new. What's mine? Mine is undefined. Nothing got returned. What? What's this? This is a window? Uh-oh. In a browser, the default this is window. So if I go window, which has lots of things in it, and I go make, oh my gosh, I just corrupted this tab, which is what the window corresponds to, with a make, window, what else used to be in here? Wait, window dot weight, 10 pounds. I just corrupted the window object. No errors at all were set. Okay, it just it's got a nice mechanism for doing this. You leave off things, you end up in trouble, or can end up in trouble. Okay, that's what we just saw. We just saw that we added a make field to the window object built into the browser because that's the default object. You'll also see that Node.js will have a default object. It's not window though. Okay. Now, we can find out and check to see what types of objects, do a check on types of objects to help us avoid some of those common mistakes with the instance of operator. So let's take a look at how this works. Okay, let's create another object. Okay, I want the current time right now equals new, what do you think? Date. Oh, right now gives me this date object. Cool. And it's got prototypes, blah, blah, blah. It's got tons of functions for working with dates, all sorts of details, including, what did we had that random question right now. To ISO string. What kind of time is that? According to here, it's 5:30 when I made this, but this is coming back saying saying it's the next day. Oh, this is UTC. When we see the Z here, it means Universal Coordinated Time, or Greenwich Mean Time, or whatever. Okay, this is how we actually record dates. We can bring in time zones and stuff with the local time. Okay, right now dot to local date time string. Okay, various different functions here for doing those kind of things. Okay, now what did we have? The words B1. Okay, so we're going to say B1 instance of date. False. B1 instance of board. True. Right now instance of date. True. Okay, and you can try. So we have easy ways that we can check the type of an object. Now, we didn't get into the mechanisms that underlie how these objects actually are created in JavaScript, and we'll have just a little bit about that if you have to deal with some compatibility, but we're not going to get to that until we have to worry about inheritance. Notice, I didn't talk at all about inheritance here, just creating an object, okay? I mean, that's of your own type, okay? We didn't go through anything about how to do that. For that, there's a modern, nice way to do that that we'll get to when we get to React, and that's JavaScript classes, okay? But we don't need them now, okay? We can make lots of, we can use function constructors to make all the objects we want, okay? All right. We'll talk to you the next time.